Hello everybody, welcome to episode 7 of the Coffee, Yarn, and Dinosaurs podcast. I am Ruth. I'm the designer behind Everyday Yarnworks Knitting Patterns. For those of you who don't know me, today is September 1st and I am coming to you from Philadelphia, where I live with my 2 sons, my husband, my brother-in-law, and my daughter, who will be born in December. First of all, hi. Thank you for tuning in, whether you're new or a returning viewer. I'm always amazed that you guys, and honored that you guys take the time to check out what I'm working on, and that for those of you who've subscribed, thank you that you take the time to come back. I really appreciate it. So let's start off with, where you can find me. Sorry, I'm trying a new setup today, so I'm a little bit like, there we go, checking the camera, trying to make sure everything looks right, trying a new setup, so hopefully no more camera cutting off on me. I got a bigger memory card, so hopefully it'll just be continuous and I can keep filming and everything will be good to go. You can find me on social media as Everyday Yarnworks. I am that on Instagram and Facebook. Trying to think where else. Etsy. It's not really social media. Excuse me. Of course, right after I start podcasting, I have to sneeze. But on Ravelry, I am Brash Elegance because they wouldn't let me change my name. So that's where you can find me. So I'm really happy. It's only been about 2 weeks this time since I've podcasted, so I'm pretty much on schedule. I think I'm only like a day or two over 2 weeks, which is awesome. Yeah, so it's been 2 weeks. Got lots of good stuff to show you guys. And by the way, it's Labor Day weekend. Happy September. And oh my goodness, I don't know about you guys, but here, it is all of a sudden the weather has started to cool down and it's starting to feel like fall, and it's awesome. Like, you wake up in the morning and it's cool. And this morning I was sitting out with my cup of coffee on the back deck, just like, this is perfect. I love this weather. It was 60 degrees. Perfect. It's exactly what I like. My neighbors are in mourning for the lack of summer and I'm like, yes, it's fall. Perfect. So today I am drinking, I'm back to coffee, you guys. For those of you guys who have watched before, I was off coffee, even decaf for a while, just because my body wasn't happy with it because I'm pregnant. And now it's working out okay. It's doing a little bit better. So this is mostly decaf Dunkin' Donuts coffee with a little bit of, I don't even know what it is. It's Maxwell House Cafe Vienna, which I'm pretty sure is basically instant coffee with like powdered coffee creamer thrown in, but I only use a teaspoon or 2 and it works to take away the instant coffee flavor, which is awesome. And a little bit of creamer. So I am drinking out of this is a mug my sister gave me for my last birthday, and it is from Always Azul Pottery from Villa Grove, Colorado. Sorry, that was me reading off the bottom of the cup. Yeah, I like it. That's what I'm drinking. So, that's me. And I wanted to start off today. I had a couple people ask me in the comments of previous videos either where I get my inspiration for my patterns, or I guess where I started as a designer. And I'll put a little, this is only gonna be like 3 minutes. This isn't like long story time with Ruth where it's gonna be like 4 hours long. Just like a 5-minute background, sort of. So you guys can get to know me a little better. But I'll put like a timestamp, so if you want to skip forward to just the knitted, you know, FOs and whips and stuff like that, you can skip to that. So basically, I've been knitting and crocheting since I was a kid, but around, I want to say maybe high school age, so like my teenage years, I discovered Knitty.com, the free, I don't know what is, like a quarterly magazine or something, so there were free patterns on there. and I started following the Yarn Harlot, the blogger, because this was before Ravelry was a thing. So there were patterns available on the internet, for those of you who don't know or maybe haven't been knitting very long. There were patterns available on the internet, but you had to know where to find them. It wasn't like Ravelry because Ravelry's just a big database and you can just search for whatever you want. Wasn't like that. So most of the stuff I was making was either out of library books or from Knitty or something the Yarn Harlot recommended, because that's about who I followed. And it was mostly, I crocheted a lot of blankets, more crocheting than knitting when I was in high school. There was some knitting, but it was a lot of crochet. Either free patterns or just stuff I kind of made up because I didn't have a pattern and I didn't really know you needed a pattern. I was like, I'll just make this and see what happens. So there was a lot of freehanding back in high school. And then my first year of college, funny story, I was supposed to go to a local campus. It was a 4-year university, but I was supposed to go to a local campus. And I went to the check-in day, you know, orientation day. And I mentioned to them, oh, hey, you have a campus out in Wisconsin, and maybe I'll go there next year. And my orientation person said, oh no, it's only a first-year program out in Wisconsin, so if you want to go, you've got to go now. Like, you've got to sign up, tell us you're going, and you're going. I was like, oh, okay, sure, sign me up. How, you know, extension campus out in Wisconsin. That should be fun. I'll go away to school for a year. So my poor mother thought I was going to be 20 minutes from home. And I turned out to be 20 hours from home, and she only got like 2 weeks notice. So anyway, I get out to the campus in Wisconsin, and I found out that it was like an extreme outdoor sports campus. And I had no idea, not a clue that that's what it was going to be. So I get out there. For those of you guys who are in Wisconsin, it was in the Northwoods of Wisconsin, you've probably never heard of it, in Cable, Wisconsin. And it was awesome. It was amazing, but it was not what I expected. I was totally unprepared. And it was cold, like very cold, like walk outside and your nose hairs freeze cold and you can't breathe. So basically when I was there is when the knitting started to pick up again, because it was cold and a lot of us were unprepared for that temperature level of coldness, except for the guy from Alaska who was like, this is great. But so I started knitting things like fingerless gloves or mittens or whatever. And I wasn't really using a pattern because, once again, I think Ravelry existed by that point, but I didn't really use it much. I sort of knew it was there, could use it as a resource if I needed to, but I wasn't really using it. So I was making up my own patterns for gloves or fingerless gloves and mittens and hats. Let me shut this phone off. I forgot to turn my phone volume off and it's sitting here buzzing at me. There we go. What was I saying? Yeah, making up my own patterns for hats and gloves and stuff like that. So I kind of view that as the beginning of my designing, and it wasn't an intentional designing with the purpose of publishing or anything like that. It was just, that's how I knitted. I made up my own patterns because that's what there was. I didn't have books for it. I didn't have whatever. And my choices for buying yarn were Walmart, half an hour away, or this really fantastic local yarn store, which God only knows how in the middle of nowhere, I guess that's just where they lived. It was an amazing local yarn store. I had no idea. It was the first time I had ever been to that kind of yarn store. And I thought that was just normal until I came back here and went to some of the ones around here. And I'm not even kidding. I want to go back to Wisconsin to go to that yarn store because it was amazing. So I could basically choose between really low-end stuff at Walmart or the more high-end stuff at the local yarn store or Knit Picks. I was sort of just making up my own patterns, and then one of the guys I was at school with says to me, hey, can you make me knee-high Argyle socks? And of course I was like, sure, why not? How hard could it possibly be? Guys, I had never knit socks before, okay? So I had never knit socks before. I had never done intarsia before. It's hilariously amazing that these socks even fit him. I'm gonna put a picture in here because obviously I gave them to this guy. He had size 13 quadruple E feet, okay? So what that means is that one of his feet was literally as wide as two of my feet put next to each other. It was ridiculous. I don't even know how much yarn I used, but they were fingering weight socks. So it was like, it was so much yarn. It took me like 4 months to knit these things because I had no idea what I was doing. But somehow, miraculously, they fit him. Wonder of wonders. So I guess that kind of counts as designing too, but that's sort of where my background came from. It was always sort of second nature to me to just make stuff up as I go along. And then I got to the point where I decided, hey, if I'm making up all this stuff as I go along, I might as well write it down for other people to, you know, be able to make stuff with me. And so I did. And that's why you guys have started getting patterns, because a couple people asked me for the patterns of what I was doing, and I was like, hey, I might as well do this. So I paid attention, made them professional instead of just notes on paper. And there you have, ta-da, the beginning of Everyday Yarnworks patterns. So as for where I get inspiration from, it really depends. A lot of times I see a yarn and it's usually either the color of the yarn or I might see a stitch pattern, but it's mostly the yarn. It's usually I start with the yarn first and I look at it and I'm like, I know exactly what this wants to be because it just looks like it wants to be something. So let's start with things I've actually finished, because I haven't finished that much these 2 weeks. My little, this is funny. This is my little treasure chest. I've started putting like stuff. I've been working on a lot of projects at the same time, so I've started putting my whips and stuff in there because I can leave it on the counter and it's shut and it has a lid on it. So let me just show you FOs quickly. I'm really proud of myself. I finished, I think, 2 older projects. Like, I'm gonna have to play it back and see if you guys can hear that. My brother-in-law is outside fixing a lawnmower and he's just pounding on something. Ugh, whatever. Anyway, I apologize. I finished 2 older works in progress, both hats. The first one is, I don't know if you can really see that. Interesting. You can see me in this lighting, but you can't really see the stuff. I'm gonna take 30 seconds and change how I'm sitting, and hopefully you'll be able to see things better. Yeah, you can see that a little bit better. This is my pattern. I'm keeping this hat, and it is, it's intended to be a slouchy hat, but this one, my 4-year-old saw it while I was working on it, and he kept grabbing it and putting it on, and I was like, all right, I guess this is meant for you. But he has a really big head, so it fits me too, and it fits my husband. So it's probably just gonna go in a box of cold things. And whoever wears it this winter wears it. So this yarn is Patton's Squirrel Socks. Let's see if that'll focus when it's in front of my face. In there, I don't remember what the colorway is. It's on my Ravelry page, my project page, but I don't remember the color because I started this over a year ago. So, ta-da! It fits as a beanie on me and on him. On him, it's a little bit like that, but this is a very stretchy pattern. So I'm really happy with how this came out. And I'm really happy to be clearing whips. I'm really, really excited to be working down my pile of whips because my pile of whips is huge. So that's the first one. The second one is also an old whip. And this is, there we go. Focus on the hat for you instead of my face. I can't remember what the pattern is. I'll write it down below, but I know that the designer is handmade by Finessa. And this one's a little bit slouchier. It's a little bit like, I think next time I would make it just a tiny, tiny bit shorter because it does that thing where it bunches in the back, which I don't care for. But again, this is probably just gonna get thrown into my bin of winter stuff that somebody gets to wear, and whoever it ends up being, that's who it ends up being because there's a bucket of winter stuff. You'll notice I make my hats a little bit longer. I like them. I mean, really, I guess if I wore it the other way, I guess you could wear it as a slouchy hat. Like if you just wanted to, I don't really wear slouchy hats. Sometimes I do. How's that? Yep. You could probably wear that as a slouchy hat, but if I actually want to be warm in the winter, I like my hats to be, like here's the bottom of my ears. I like my hats to be below the bottom of my ears, completely covering my ears. I don't know why, but my ears, if it gets really cold, my ears get extremely painful, like they hurt a lot during the winter. So I like to have them completely covered. And it just, yeah, just a tiny bit too big, but that's okay because again, someone will wear it. This was started, I think this is maybe like my second episode, so it was a while ago. And the yarn is Bernat Roving. It's just the teal color, and it's 100% acrylic, but it's very, very soft for being acrylic yarn. I'm very surprised. I'm very surprised. It's a very soft acrylic yarn, and it's made to look like, I don't know if you can see from the stitches, it's made to be like a one-ply yarn. It's made to mimic a one-ply wool yarn, which makes it very like airy and fluffy, and it's a very lightweight yarn for being, I think it's either bulky or super bulky weight yarn technically, but it's very, very lightweight for as thick as it is, which is nice. And then my third project, this color is not going to show up on the camera at all because of the nature of this color. I mean, it looks like a hot pink there, but this is like bright fuchsia sparkle. And it just doesn't show up because sometimes cameras have a hard time with reds, and the camera that I'm using right now does. But this is the big cable beanie pattern from Premnitz, and excuse me, it's worked with 2 strands of Karen Simply Soft Party held together. And guys, this literally, it took me maybe an hour and a half. It was so fast. I watched like an episode of NCIS and 20 minutes of a podcast, and I was done with this. It's like a 35 row hat once you get past the ribbing. So I'm gonna try it on. I feel like I look a little bit goofy in it, so just so you guys know, I feel a little bit silly in this hat because it's not my usual style, and I think I'm gonna, I don't know. I feel a little goofy because it's not quite my style. So I think it's gonna end up getting gifted to somebody. I'm just gonna put it in a Christmas box and be like, here you go, I made you something pink and sparkly. Because I don't, again, here, we'll pull the bangs out, we'll see. We'll see if this is how it's supposed to work. I guess so. There it is. So overall I liked the pattern. I'm really happy with how quickly it went. The pattern itself only comes in one size, which is a little bit disappointing because I was hoping that I would be able to make this for maybe a couple of my nieces. So I guess the way that I would do that, I mean, I know how to modify patterns. I could probably make the cable, you know, a couple stitches smaller and reduce the overall circumference of the hat. But I think that was the part that really disappointed me about this pattern, is that it only comes in one size. So for what you're paying for, it's a fairly basic pattern. But I mean, you know what? It was really fun to make. So I'll just have to find somebody who will wear it. But it was very fun to make, and I really, really enjoyed making it. And it has this great, you can see I keep playing with it. It has this really great squish to it. And for those of you who've used Caron Simply Soft, you know it's not because of the yarn. It's because you knit this on size 13s. So it's like a 35 row hat. It's crazy. I know I said that before, but it's so fast. So this is a great like gift knitting pattern, because part of it being generic, I think, makes it a great gift knitting pattern. But I do think that if I was gonna make it for someone else again, I might cast on maybe like 4 or 5 fewer stitches, because I have a very big head. I have a 23.5-inch head, which is like a men's large. And look how it fits me. It fits loosely on me. Like, this hat band is gonna stretch out, and I have plenty of space. So this fits me, but if I gifted it to maybe like my sister who has a smaller head, I don't actually know that this would fit her. This might be too big on her. Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see. Or maybe I would knit it on, she does give an option to knit it on 11s instead of 13s. So maybe I would do that for the next hat, even though it would be less squishy. I don't know. But it's a great last minute gift pattern. I will, like a generic, I need to give something to someone. Help! Big braid. I think big braid, I don't know. I'll put it below. It's like the big braid beanie or something like that. So, oh, one more. I was thinking I was done. It's also in the same shade of fuchsia, so everything's gonna look kind of like a dark magenta to you. But this is a little baby knit. I'm so excited. It still has, I still have to block it, but this is the lace sleeve, I want to call it the lace sleeve romper from Brianna K Designs, Brianna Kepner. And obviously, here, put it in front of my face. Obviously I made it a sweater instead of a romper because I started knitting this, and this is supposed to be the 0 to 3 month size, and because I was bad and I didn't swatch, I think this is more like a 6 month size. I don't think this is really 0 to 3, which is kind of unfortunate because my daughter is going to be 6 months old in June. So, or May or June, either way. So really in May or June you don't need a sweater, but I'm hoping that maybe it'll fit her a little earlier, or I can like roll up the sleeves or something. So this is knitted with, oh, and I'll talk about that in a second. This is knitted with Red Heart with Wool yarn, which is a discontinued yarn that was carried at Michael's, I think exclusively. And I only saw it there for a couple of months, and I had originally gotten it to make a sweater for myself because it's an Aran weight yarn and it's not bad to knit with, but I found that when I was knitting with it for the sweater for me, there were like 12 knots per skein of yarn. And I will grant you, it was like a $4 ball of yarn, but still, it was too much, because every time I come to a knot, I cut it out and I rejoin the yarn. And I just felt like I didn't want to keep knitting with a yarn that I was going to be rejoining and rejoining and rejoining. And I guess a lot of other people felt the same way, because this is a discontinued yarn. So, modifications. The seam in the back, you can see this seam right here, is not supposed to be here. It's worked from the top down with raglan shaping, and it's supposed to be, this top ribbing is not supposed to be here, so it's supposed to be like this, and the first part is worked back and forth in rows, not in the round. But because this is stockinette, it curled so badly. So this is like a good 2.5 inches. It's supposed to have like a button to, you know, join it together, but this is a good 2.5 inches that would have just been open and kind of curled up in the back. And maybe if I had gotten gauge for the sweater, it probably wouldn't have been so tall of a gap. But I got further down and I was just like, you know what? This kid's gonna be born in December. Like, she doesn't need a 3-inch gap in the back of the sweater for just, I get that it's to help fit over their heads when they're babies, but because it's like a 6-month size, I feel like it's okay, because her head will be a little more stable by then and I'll be able to fit this over her head. So, so I knit the whole thing and I got down to where, this is where you would have split for the onesie. And I was like, you know what? I don't think a onesie sweater is necessarily the most practical. Maybe it is, I don't know. So I just made it a regular sweater. I just bound off, and I was like, if it's too long, whatever, it'll go down over her pants a little bit. No big deal, she's a baby, it's fine. But, and then here's the really cool sleeve detail. Keep it in front of my face. Sleeve detail. The only downside to this pattern is that it is not charted. So it's just a personal preference. It's a really well written pattern and I would totally recommend it to you guys. But if you are someone who works almost exclusively from charts, you're going to struggle, because I did. Because I am used to patterns where they say something like, work to the marker, work the chart over the sleeve, you know, next marker, whatever. But she does not reference markers, stitch markers at all in this pattern. So once you do the first couple repeats, it's fine and it's not an issue, and it's a very simple lace pattern to memorize. But in the beginning, it's a little rough. But the good news is this is a very fast project, because it's a worsted to Aran weight project. So this was, I mean, maybe like 2 days. So my modifications, I ended up just sewing up the back. It's just, here, I'll show you the inside. It's literally just whip stitched. Focus, there you go. It's literally just whip stitched. It's not anything crazy. So I did that, and then I picked this up on a circular needle and added the top ribbing and the bottom ribbing, so it's a sweater, not a romper. And I added ribbing on the cuffs too, because this is just supposed to end, like here. I guess she doesn't mind a little bit of rolling on the sleeves, but that really bugs me. So I added, it's just like 4 rows of ribbing. It's nothing crazy. And for all of my edges, I did Elizabeth Zimmerman's Better Bind Off, because that is my preferred stretchy bind off. Like, if you look at this, it's a normal functional sweater. So it's a stretchy bind off. You can see that this is normal, like a normal sweater. It doesn't look super stretched out, but look how far that stretches. That's the other reason why I wasn't concerned about cutting out or sewing up the back part here, because this is like the stretchiest bind off ever, but it retains its shape. So I'm really not concerned at all about whether it'll fit over her head or anything like that. So that is my last finished item. Moving on to whips, which I still have a lot of, but I was able to make a lot of progress over the past 2 weeks. Oh, I have one more FO that I totally forgot about. Down in the treasure box. So this also needs to be blocked. But this is the Shabby Chic pattern from Knit Eco Chic. And it's very stretchy, so it definitely needs to be blocked out. But, oops, and my tail's woven in too. But I think it's gonna end up being more like a scarf. Because, once again, I did not swatch, because apparently when I'm not making my own patterns, I don't swatch for things. So, this is a very cool pattern though. I like how it loops through, like you can see it can just be tied through like this. I could loop through other stuff if I wanted. I could, you know, do like this and just weave it all around. It's a very versatile, like you can have fun with the lacing and how it gets worn. I could wear it up here like this. I could make it look like a scarf so you can't see the lacing at all. But I like this wider part down here, so it gives it sort of that bandana shape. I could lace it through here. Once I block it, I could wear it a little bit like a shawl probably, but I think I'm gonna wear this as a scarf. And I really like it. This is my first project for the fall shawl cowl on Instagram, but because it turned out to be more of a scarf, I'm gonna wait a little bit to enter it, because I feel kind of bad that I made a scarf out of poor Lindsay's pattern, because her pattern definitely works as a shawl, and I feel bad. I totally made it into a scarf, but maybe it'll be a shawl when I block it, right? Because look how big. It'll totally work as a shawl when I block it. So this is naturally dyed wool from Spunwear Over the Rainbow, and it is dyed with logwood bark. And I'm just gonna pull this out and pretend like it's blocked so you guys can see all of the cool details. But this was a really fast pattern too. It's with sport weight yarn, and my 4-year-old was calling this my alligator. He was like, can I play with the alligator? I want to play with the alligator. Because it goes off into a tail, which is very clever. You start with the longest part of it. There you go. Lean back. You start with the widest part of it and go down to the narrowest part. So the rows are getting shorter as you go, which is awesome, because then you can feel like you're getting even more done, and it goes quickly because it's sport weight yarn on 6s, and there's all these cool details in here to keep you busy. So I'm really excited for when I block this. And I was thinking of gifting it to somebody, but I think I'm gonna keep it, because now that I've tried it on, it's really comfy, and I think it's going to be mine. So that is that. Let's see. Whips. I will start with the one that I was trying to get more progress done on before I filmed this, but it didn't happen. So this is, I guess I have to scoot back a little bit. This is the Roxy Baby Dress by Pernille Lawson, and it's kind of funny because I was really excited that I had found her, because she is not a designer that I had ever heard of before. She was a new designer to me. She has really, really cute patterns, and I was like, this is awesome. I'm gonna have stuff for my baby that it's not like everybody's knitting the flax sweaters, or everybody's knitting, I don't know. There's a lot like the tin can knit stuff. I feel like a lot of people do that for baby knitting. And I was like, I want to find something unique. So I found this, and then I was like, this is great. She has so many awesome patterns. And then Rachel from the Hey Sister podcast was like, I found this new designer and her name's Pernille Lawson, and now everybody is making her patterns. And I was like, no. It's like when you pick a name for your kid and you're like, no one has ever named their kid this name. It's gonna be so perfect. It's gonna be so cool. And then everybody as soon as you choose the name. Everybody's using that name, but that's okay. So this is the Roxy dress. It's knit from the top down, and it has all these little baubles on it, which is cool. I am still going to add sleeves. And this is taking me way longer than I expected it to, because you keep increasing as you go down the dress. And at the point that I'm at right now, look, I'm halfway through binding off the end of it. But the point that I'm at right now is 340 stitches around. So it's literally like knitting a shawl it's so long. I've been on the last maybe 12 rows for like a full week. The entire rest of the dress I got done in 1 week, and I've been like a week on the last 12 rows because I just was losing my mind. You had 340 stitches of stockinette per round on size 2s. So it's gonna be really cool though. The only part I'm disappointed about is that the bottom border, sorry, you can hear my needles clicking. That's what that sound is, the needles on the table. The bottom border is just a little bit of garter stitch, and I'm hoping it'll block out because right now it's rolling like crazy. So if it doesn't block out, my plan is either to use a crochet hook and sort of just go around the edge in a couple rows of single crochet to tighten it up, or I was just thinking as I showed this to you guys, I might just fold the bottom over and sew it down and make it like a rolled hem, because that would definitely stabilize it, give it a little bit more structure. So I might just do that, and it would look like this on the inside. And I'm sure taking like an inch off the bottom of it isn't going to be that big a deal. This is a really good pattern though. I really like it. It is, I believe she's a Norwegian designer. I'm not 100% positive. But I mean, it's a really good pattern. I would not recommend it for somebody who has never knit a garment before, because the pattern sort of assumes that you have a little bit of knowledge about how sweaters are put together or how garments are put together. So if you've never knit a sweater or never knit a garment before, I would not recommend this as a first time pattern. But if you have at least a little bit of an understanding of how it works, you should be good to go. What else? What else? It's coming out a little bit bigger than I expected, which seems to be my theme, but that's okay, because right now I haven't added the sleeves, and I'm going to add sleeves. But if it turns out that I was hoping for this to be a Christmas dress, and if it turns out that it doesn't fit her for that, I can always just kind of go back, take the sleeves off, and she could wear it over stuff in the spring. So I'm totally not concerned about the sizing. This one is completely adaptable because it's fingering weight yarn. So in the spring, even though it's wool, I think that'll be fine. I think that'll work out. So that is my first whip. Oh, and I'm knitting that on my Chow red lace. The pattern calls for 2.5s, but I did not have 2.5s in a long enough needle. I had 2.5s in a 16-inch cable, and I started off doing that, and then the circumference of it is just so big I had to switch to a longer cable, and all I had was a size 2. So actually, let me show you that, because you can't really, that might be the best spot. Right about here is where I switch stitches or switch needle sizes, and you can't really see it. It doesn't really make that big of a difference. So 2s, 2.5s. I guess I would have had to knit a few less rows if I had stuck with the 2.5s, but it is what it is. All I have left to do is the sleeves. So hopefully this will be an FO the next time I see you guys. So that's number 1. Let's see. I'm like opening bags because I can't remember what's in them. Okay, this is good. Number 2. This is the beginnings of an Eiffel Tower shawl by Natalie Servant. And this is going to be for the fall shawl cowl also. which is in its second week, by the way, runs till October 15th. So you still have plenty of time to jump on. You have a month and a half to knit a shawl, which is totally doable. I am on my second shawl. A lot of people some people have finished their first one already. Totally doable. So this is what it's gonna look like. And I'm really happy that this pattern is participating in the Cal, because I have had this pattern in my Ravelry queue since she published it. Like, I think maybe like 3 years. I think this has been out for about 3 years. And it's a beautiful pattern, and it's gonna have these long like arches, like the arches on the Eiffel Tower, and the bottom of it has this pretty lacy scroll work, and it's, oh my gosh, it's so pretty. And this is literally 1 day's worth of work. So I'm not worried about being able to complete it, which is why I set it aside for a couple days, because this is 1 day's worth of work. And I'm just going to show you up close so it focuses on this. This yarn is actually Patton's lace, and it's from my stash, so I'm knitting from stash. It's Patton's lace. Oh, I could just show you the skein of yarn. Ta-da! So if you've encountered Patton's lace before, it is mostly acrylic with, I think, like 10% wool and 10% mohair, I think. So that's that halo at the top. And so it's kind of fuzzy, kind of squishy. And I think this is gonna go in my gift knitting pile too. I think this is gonna end up, I won't say who it's for in case the person is watching, but I think I know who it's gonna be for. So, Eiffel Tower Shawl by Natalie Servant. 2 thumbs up so far. The charts are really clear, the written instructions are really clear, and I really, really like that. And I'm not gonna show you like the charts or anything in detail, but I really like that she has written instructions on one side, right? So she's got written instructions on one side of the page and the chart on the other side of the page. So I print stuff out when I'm doing lace just because it makes my life easier than scrolling through a little tiny phone screen. But if you're somebody who needed to follow written and charted instructions together, you could just flip the page over back and forth and see like they're together. So I really like that, how her pattern is laid out. So that's whip number 2. Let's see. Where is, I lost a project. Next project, I'm using up again that Red Heart with wool. And so I cast on a pair of, what are they called? Little Squirrel Socks by Tin Can Knits. So the pattern calls for worsted to Aran weight yarn and size 5s. And I'm using Red Heart with wool, which is that discontinued Aran weight I talked about, and size 6 DPNs, because I do not have a long enough cable on a size 6 or a size 5 to magic loop, which is how I would normally make socks. So it's a really cute pattern. There is, hide my face. There's really cute patterning, and it's just a basic heel flap and gusset. There was a small error, I think it's an error in the pattern, that I'm probably just gonna email the designer and ask her a question about, because normally when you go to decrease for a gusset, at the beginning, on the right side of the foot, you do knit 2 together, right? You do a right leaning decrease, and on the left side of the foot, you do a left leaning decrease. And in the pattern, when I came to it, for the right side of the gusset, it said slip, slip, knit, and I was like, no, I don't think I will do a left leaning decrease on the right side of the foot. That's gonna give me really weird looking socks. So there's a possibility that I was just being stubborn and I didn't make the pattern right, because that has happened in the past, because I didn't trust the designer. Oops, sorry. Or the other possibility is that it's an error in the pattern. So I'm not sure, but either way, all I have left to do is graft the toe. But I put it off because this yarn is such a thick yarn that it's really hurting my hands to work with at this tight of a gauge. And also, again, as per my theme, Does this look like a newborn size sock to you? No. It does not look like a newborn size sock to me either. It looks like maybe like a 6-month size sock. So I'm thinking maybe if I can roll the cuff down like this, right? Looks a little smaller, it's still very cute. Maybe I can fit this on her at 3 months, but look on my hand how big that is. I got gauge, and this is decidedly not a newborn size sock. So apparently my poor child is just destined to have all of these clothes that are too big, and everything will just be baggy on her, and I'll be like, look kid, I made you stuff, you're gonna wear it. We'll roll things up, it'll be fine. Poor child. But apparently that's what's happening. So my last whip is a new pattern that I'm working on. And I showed this to you guys last time. And when I showed it to you last time, it was just at the gray part. But I've added some more. And now it is at some yellow. So I'm gonna stretch it out a little bit and show it to you guys. It's a lot of lace and some texture. This is just going to be a top-down yarn doodle shawl. So it's pretty big already, but I don't care. I'm going for a really, really big shawl because I love this yarn and I love the yarns together. So this is Knit Picks Preciosa Tonal in the fingering weight. So here's the ball of yellow. Focus camera, focus. And it's just this really gorgeous single ply, 100% merino. It's not super wash. And so there's the gray color. So I think this one is called Stormy and this one is called, it might be like Stormy and Sunny, which would be kind of funny. I'm not sure. I think it might be Stormy and Sunny. But there they are. And this pattern I'm going a little bit slower on just because I have so many projects in the works. And yeah, so I'm going a little bit slower on it. I'm not sure when it's going to be released, but I am working on it. It is in progress. It's going to happen. You guys will keep seeing it. Ta-da! I'm really enjoying this. So, and it's squishy because it's that single ply yarn, so it's really just squishy. Yeah, so that is that design. And then let me get my sweater. I have not made much progress on my sweater. And obviously I have not made much progress on organizing things, or else they would all be right in front of me. But in the massive Harry Potter bag, which I made straps for and I haven't attached them. Last time I podcasted, I had started working on the left front of the sweater. And all I have completed now is I have finished the left front of the sweater. So, and there's the belly, you can see it. So there it is up at the shoulder. It's gonna join under the arm here like this. And there's gonna be a big shawl collar in the front. So right now I have used, let's see, I have 14 skeins left out of 22. They're little 50-gram skeins. Little tiny 50-gram skeins. So I've used, I guess, 8 out of 22. So I'm almost halfway there. I have the back completed and now I have the left front completed. So I have to make the right front and both sleeves and then the big huge collar. So it's still gonna take me a little while, but I'm really happy with how it's going. Because at least I'm making progress. I'm behind, but I'm making progress, which is awesome. So, let's see. New acquisitions. I only have a couple, but I love them. The first 2 are from Bad Wolf Girl Studios, which is Meg from Bad Wolf Girl Sits and Knits. She has a podcast. and I've been eyeing up her yarn for a really long time, and I finally got some. I'm really pleased that she had these two colorways, because these two colorways in particular I have been eyeing up for a long time. So I'm really pleased that she still had them in stock when I got to her shop. So the first one is Galaxy, and this is on her sparkle base. Look at that. It's just so tempting and pretty. And it's a lot of dark blue with some pretty pinky purple mixed in. Let me just unskein it and show you, because it's got really cool colors on the inside. It's just so, it's so cool. I really love it, and I really love the sparkle. And oh, and look here. It has a couple, hide my face. It has a couple teal pops, and it's just really cool. So this is Galaxy, and I was thinking about making a baby, like a onesie sweater from it, the Pernille Lawson onesie sweater that apparently now everybody is making their child. What am I doing? But when I looked at the pattern, it calls for a much thicker fingering weight yarn. So, guys, I'm stuck. Why am I stuck in yarn? There's worse things I could be stuck in, but my fingers are stuck in the hank of yarn. I'm sure this is humorous to you guys. Don't try this at home, kids. Oh my goodness. All right, we're gonna do this one more time. And then if it doesn't work, I'm just going to give up and do it later when I'm not recording stuff. Guys, this is the worst. What am I doing? It's whatever. I'll fix it later. That's the first color. I may or may not use it for a little baby sweater, just because I think it would be really pretty for a little girl's baby sweater. But if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. And then the second color is her Newt Scamander colorway, which is also on sparkle, because I have a problem. And if I undo that, you can see it's just a very cool, I just like it a whole lot. It reminds me of space, and I like it. Look at that sparkly. I like it so much. So I don't know what this is gonna be. I bought it because it was pretty. It might be a really epic pair of socks. I don't know. I might make myself Bad Wolf Bay socks, just because it would really amuse me to make Bad Wolf Bay socks when the yarn dyer is Bad Wolf Girl Sits and Knits, and it would just amuse the heck out of me. So I might do that, I might not do that. We'll see what happens. So those two, and then I have a spinning fiber acquisition from Created by LCB, because she is doing a spin along starting September 15th. So this is, did I lose the card? Oh no, there it is. So here's her card. Created by LCB. I think that's focusing. Focus. There we go. Created by LCB, and this is 100% Rambouillet. So it's like squishy and fluffy, and she's doing a spin along. So there's your colors. And the spin along starts September 15th, and it ends, I think October 15th. I think it's a full month. And because I'm limited to the drop spindle this time around, I think I'm probably just going to go for a single ply, because I've been enjoying knitting that yellow and gray shawl with the single ply so much. So I think I'm going to just go for the single ply this time. Fit back into the bag. And yeah, so that way hopefully I won't have to worry about plying on a drop spindle, or if I end up having to take some of the wool off the drop spindle, which I'm sure I will, I won't have to worry about it, because the spindle gets really heavy when you have 4 ounces of yarn on it. And yeah, and it'll also help with the time constraint, because it has to be finished by October 15th, and I don't know that I could spin a lighter weight yarn and finish and ply it, but maybe I can, or maybe I'll just try using my wheel again and see what happens. So that's that. Let's see. Coffee. Plans for the future. Besides obviously making progress on the whips that I have now, I also have those socks that I want to finish, and I found this when I was going through my stash, and this is one of my oldest whips ever, like ever. It is Uni Jang's Print O' the Wave Stole. See if I can, it's pretty glary. See if you guys can see it when my face isn't in the way. So it's a really pretty lace. I think this is probably the first lace I ever knit, and it's on a circular needle right now because you knit the middle piece from top to bottom and then pick up stitches around it and knit the border. And all I have to do is knit on the border. So theoretically, I could finish this week. And the yarn is just, I don't remember much about it except I know that I ordered it on eBay, and I know that it has some kind of bamboo in it. So I want to say that it's a wool bamboo mix, but I'm not 100% positive. So I have I've got this much of one and then this much of a second one. So I'm not concerned at all about having enough yarn to finish the border. I think I should be fine. So I'm gonna have to reprint the pattern out and work on it, but this is part of my whip busting plan. Because I want to be responsible. I want to finish the stuff that I start. I don't want to just keep starting projects and never finish them. So these appear to be size 6s. I'm not 100% positive because this is so old. I don't think I even have it in Ravelry. So that means it's probably 6 or 7 years old, and I'm trying to finish whips. I'm trying to clear space. Speaking of which, I'm really excited. I got rid of 10,000 yards of yarn. I went through my stash and I was like, I pretty much haven't used this in 6 to 9 months. So what do I actually not want to knit with anymore? And I'm putting it out in a yard sale and tomorrow. And whatever does not get sold, I'm just gonna donate to a charity because I figure someone else can use it and I don't need a monster stash sitting around. And once I have my daughter, I'm probably gonna have less knitting time anyway, so what's the point of having a massive stash that I'm not going to use, and some of the yarns I don't even like anymore, when somebody else can do a lot of good with it? Or maybe it'll be like one of those awesome yard sale finds for somebody where you're like, yarn for $1 or yarn for 50 cents, you know, whatever. Like, this is great. So yeah, I'm really excited about that. So hopefully I'm gonna finish this. Hopefully I'm gonna have that Roxy dress finished, and I'm gonna have shawls finished and more work on my sweater for next time. And because I don't have enough projects, right? Oh, goodness. Starting today, the Joji Locatelli Fall Cal is starting today. So I am going to knit her lemongrass sweater, which is kind of like a mix of a sweater and a poncho, and I'm hoping that it won't look really funny while I'm pregnant. So I'm gonna use this. This is Knit Picks Preciosa Tonal Worsted in the Duchess colorway, and it's really pretty. Same thing, it's a single ply yarn, and the way that pullover works, the pattern I'm going to use is it's a pullover, like a kind of turtleneck pullover, but then it has buttons down the side. So I'm thinking that if I mean the pattern only has 2 buttons, but I'm thinking that if I can make it maybe like 4 or 6 buttons, and I make it extra long, like tunic length to cover my butt, that once I have the baby, I'll be able to wear it just like a comfy tunic. a comfy tunic, like poncho thing. So even if I can't wear it while I'm pregnant, I can still wear it the rest of December and January and February, and it'll still be comfy and it'll be long. And if I do finish this in enough time and I can wear it while I'm pregnant, then maybe it'll still cover my stomach, or maybe it'll look really funny because the front will be much shorter than the back. I'm not quite sure. So it'll be an experiment. We'll see what happens. The cowl officially starts today, but I don't think I'm gonna get to cast on today, just because I'm probably gonna try to edit this podcast and get it posted. And I have a couple other projects, obviously, to be working on. So, but I plan to cast on soon. So hopefully, the next time I come back, you guys will see part of a lemongrass sweater. Oh, and it's knit on worsted weight, and I think it's knit on size 10s. So that's the other reason why I chose it, because I'm like, maybe if it's knit on size 10s, it won't take me as long to finish. So it should be a nice break from fingering weight. It should be a nice break from like really long rows and small needles. So this is my break from small gauge project. One more thing that's really, really exciting. I have very exciting news. I have decided that I am going to start offering project bags in my Etsy shop. So I kind of did a test run. If you guys follow me on Instagram, I kind of did a test run maybe about a week ago, and I made 3 bags and I posted them up, and I said to my husband, you know, if they sell, they sell. Like, sweet, people are interested, and if not, cool. I have 3 project bags, and 2 of them sold within an hour of me posting, and I was like, oh, somebody wants my little bags. So I've decided that I'm gonna start doing bi-weekly shop updates. So that's every 2 weeks. I'm going to start posting whatever bags I've gotten done will be posted every 2 Saturdays. So the first shop update is going to be not this Saturday, as in like tomorrow Saturday, but a week from tomorrow. So Saturday, September 9th at 10 a.m., I'm gonna have my first shop update, which is awesome. And let me show you some of the bags. So here's the first one. It's got an exploding TARDIS. And on the inside, look at that. I love this fabric. This deep blue with the gold. And this one is one of the first test run bags. It's a drawstring. And it has the nice boxed corners on the bottom. So this, all of my bags so far, I'm making them so they would fit 2 skeins of yarn, just because I cannot stand when I cannot fit enough of my yarn, or I cannot stand when I cannot fit my pattern in with my yarn in the little tiny project bags. So this one is not interfaced, and I think the drawstring ones I'm not going to interface, because once you drawstring it, it'll kind of stand up by itself and you're going to have stuff in it. But so there's this one, and I didn't write down the dimensions for them, but the dimensions will be on the Etsy shop listing. So here's the first one. The second one, dun, 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 it's Zelda. I love it. I have so much fabric, it's ridiculous. But this one is, what am I doing? I'm zipping it backwards. This one is a zipper bag. It has Zelda on the outside, and this cool, I don't know what you would call that, swirly scrolly on the inside. It is interfaced, boxed bottom, so just a really nice, and I have zipper pulls coming that are going to be on this, so it's not just going to be the dinky little zipper. I have a zipper pull that's coming that I'm going to attach to them. So I have this one, and then I have another Zelda one in a different style though. So this one has little handles, and it has snaps, which I love. I am really enjoying the snaps, you guys, because This one, I was picturing somebody knitting like 2 pairs of socks from both ends. So it has the boxed bottom and it's interfaced. So that means you could put your yarn in it. Look at that. It's like this really nice square. It'll stand up by itself, and then because it snaps, you don't have to worry about catching your yarn on it while you're working, which I love. So that's bag number 3. Bag number 4, this is gonna be my bigger size. Octopuses. I am in love with this fabric. I only have enough to make like 4 bags, and I'm so sad because I want to keep one, and people have been commenting on it already on Instagram, and I know that you guys are gonna love this fabric. So this one, this bigger size, has a heavy duty zipper, and the inside, focus camera, is this cool purple bubble fabric. Maybe you'll be able to see it better on the outside of the bag because it's the same as the accent fabric. There you go. It's that cool purple bubble fabric, and it has a wrist strap, and it's interfaced, and a heavy duty zipper because I just prefer these. I like it better. And of course, interfacing and the boxed bottom. So these are the 4 that I have right now, and I have like 8 more cut out. So hopefully by the time I do the shop update next week, you guys will be able to see, like, there should be like 12 of them in the shop at least, I'm hoping. And then, like I said, it'll be shop updates every 2 weeks. Whatever I can get done in those 2 weeks, that'll be what goes into the shop. And I will keep showing them to you on the podcast so you can see them ahead of time. I'll be putting them up on Instagram, just a little picture so you guys can know what to expect. And yeah, I'm so excited about this. I've got other stuff in the works too that I can't tell you about, but seriously, really exciting stuff is starting to happen, and I'm so excited. So that is for the shop update. And then really quickly before I go, I just wanted to share with you a couple of the podcasters I've been watching, because I found some really cool ones recently that I hadn't found the last time I podcasted, and I just wanted to share them with you. The first one is a new podcaster. It's called River Falls Plantation, and she is very talented. This woman does very good color work. She was showing off these stranded color work pot holders on the last episode, and she's like, oh yeah, I just, you know, made like 4 of them. And I was like, you just, what? Okay, good for you. That's wonderful. They're lovely. But she has a new podcast. She only has like 2 episodes out, but it's very cool. There's my little sticky note that I'm reading off of. What else? Squirrel Pie. She is another solo podcaster. And she's really fun to watch. She's really entertaining, like a personality as a person. She's really entertaining to watch. So I really enjoy watching the Squirrel Pie Productions, she calls it. Let's see. Oh, and Hand Me My Knitting, which I know is not a small podcast, but she's new to me, and I've really been enjoying watching her too. Her most recent episode has like her kids in it, and it was really fun for me just to see her as a kind of a real life person behind the podcast. So I really appreciated that. That was really neat. And I've been watching some of the ones I mentioned before and a couple of bigger name ones. I just started watching the Grocery Girls, Hey Sister podcast, who else? Yarn Hoarder podcast, Periscoping Sisters, Girls in the Yarn Cafe, Camabornia. I watch those when I can. Knitting Expat, you know, kind of whenever they come up. If I can get into them, I can, if I have enough time. But I like finding new ones. So if you guys have any recommendations for podcasts, like knitting, dyeing, spinning, sewing, whatever related podcasts, feel free to put a comment in the bottom, because I am always curious. If you have a podcast and you're like, me, watch me, works for me. I will totally take self-recommendations. So yeah, just drop me a comment below if you have any recommendations for me. And I think that's it until next time. I think I'm at like an hour and a half on recording. So hopefully it's a little bit shorter for you guys when I edit it. But thank you so much for tuning in, you guys. It really means a lot. Thank you for all of you who follow and like and subscribe and comment. It really means a lot to me that you guys are spending the time to check out my little work here. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you again next time.